Hey y'all, today we're going to be tackling listing agent interview questions. So the reason we are doing this is we obviously do a lot of listing appointments and we get a lot of questions. And when we first started doing these 10, 12 years ago, we'd always go, hey, do you have any questions? And people would be like, no. And then you see a little bit of like guilt or shame come over their face. We're like, should I have questions? Am I an idiot? Like, what should I be asking? So we figured if you're going to be interviewing agents to list your house, you might want to have some questions to ask them. One thing, we're not here to judge agents' answers. I'm not going to say what they should answer or shouldn't answer. I'm just want to give you some insight on why you should ask these questions. So no judgment, agents, if you're watching this. One question I think you should ask agents are you a solo agent or are you working on a team? Because there's a big difference between solo agents and teams. Obviously, the one's the amount of people, but two, how are you going to be handled? Are you going to be touched by 6 or 7 different people throughout the process? Is it just one agent that is trying to do everything themselves, which is totally cool? We're advocates of teams here because we have compartmentalizations and we have someone that helps with listings and closings and everything else. But I think that goes a long way because you need to know what kind of services they're bringing and who you're going to be dealing with as well. Because the person you're talking to sometimes may disappear. You never know. They may push you off to a listing coordinator, and that the listing coordinator is not any good, but you just need to know how that's going to work. So I think that's a big one, and you can form your own answer on that one. Also, I think a really interesting one is, what are your thoughts on open houses and broker luncheons? And again, speaking from our company and our market, I feel like these are a waste of time. The average buyer finds a house from a open house 1% of the time. So I'd rather use those funds and resources to do other things that could possibly get you buyers. And then broker lunches, if you'll hear that term a lot when you're talking with agents, it's where they host an open house just for brokers, usually bring in food and let agents come preview your home. But in this day and age, with this market, I think maybe it's kind of a lost art because it's not needed with everything that's out there virtually and photography and everything else. One thing I think I would ask your agent too is like, what are your philosophies on real estate? Like, what's your premise for getting my house sold? And well, I kind of lied. I will give you an answer on this one. Like if they're like, I'm just gonna put a lockbox and a sign out there, and we're gonna put it on the MLS, and it's gonna go. That's not really how it works anymore. So our philosophy here is more based on emotions and knowing that the buyers are going to be skeptical and knowing that you're going to be emotional because you're trying to sell a house and you've got animals, kids, and husbands and wives and everything else that you're trying to get in check for the showing. So ours are all about emotions and overcoming those emotions because we know if people feel emotionally safe in a house, they're going to write that check. So I would ask that question. It's a little deep. There's not really a right or wrong answer to it, but everybody should have some sort of philosophy on how they think real estate should go. Another one I find very important is like, what additional services do you provide? Or do you, I guess you should say. And if you don't, why not? Or if you do, why? We offer home inspections at our cost on all our listings. We have a staging company come in and consult with our clients. And we have an appraiser come measure it. So it might be beneficial to you once you find out what that agent is going to offer, charge you, for your commission, what all is included in that and what services are included in that. So this goes back to our emotional sales tactic of knowing that the house is, everything's disclosed about the house and the buyer knows everything about it. They feel more comfortable and everything else. So that's part of why we do what we do when it comes to these services. So make sure you ask that question. Another one that's always good is if you're getting into a contract, how can you get out of it? Or what would it be like if you had to get out of it? So what if you decided to rent your home or not sell it? Is there a fee involved with that? What's the process? Are they even going to allow it? Because technically it's a contract, so they get time to try and sell it. So you need to figure that out as well in case your situation does change. Another one is, are there any upfront costs or fees? I do not know what other companies charge. We have dabbled with ideas and everything else, but sometimes there's fees up front. Sometimes there's fees to cancel it. Not with us per se, but I would just make sure you know that before you get into all of that with the agent. One thing I do like to ask other agents, even personally, is like, do you have any designations? And designations are really kind of like many degrees inside of real estate. You can go take certain classes for specific reasons. One's like a SRES, and it's all based around working with senior citizens and downsizers based on their needs and how trusts work and how the emotions work and how to deal with life trust and really kind of in-depth stuff they don't just teach you in real estate. But the reason I ask this question is because I want to know if these agents are open to learning. Are they trying to keep their game sharp? Are they always trying to improve? Not that people that don't have designations aren't trying to do that, but I'm always curious to see if they are. One we get a lot are you a realtor? So to break that down for you, realtors are almost like a trade. Actually, they are the largest trade organization in America with about 1.3 million members. You get licensed as a real estate agent. You do not have to be a realtor. You can join to be a realtor, and it kind of works like a trade organization. So a lot of lobbying efforts, a lot of stuff that goes to make sure that our realtor brand is the utmost, most professional with ethics, and we have ways for grievances to be handled and everything else that really kind of heightens our ability to be professionals and to keep everybody else to be a professional as well. One question we get a lot is, how often are you going to update me, and how am I going to know about showing? So understand that. And this kind of goes back to the team or the solo agent as well. If there's going to be a showing happening, is the agent going to call you? Is their assistant going to call you? Is the potential buyer's agent going to be calling you? And then how do you get feedback? How do you know that? Because you're going to get your house all ready. You're going to get the dogs packed up. You're going to get in the car and go. And as soon as the showing's over, you're going to know what happens. And I can understand that. So you need to understand how you're going to get that feedback. So that's one question we always we get asked, and we always think it's a really good question. This goes back to philosophy a little bit, but if your house doesn't sell in 30 days, what's next? Are they going to recommend price reductions automatically? Are they one of those agents that think it's all price? Are they have another trick up their sleeve? Like, you need to know that. And we don't want you to go to 30 days, but sometimes that happens more and more. So we need to know what's their course, what's their philosophy with that as well. Another thing I'd ask are their stats. Kind of like a baseball player. Like, you see their RBI and their hit average and everything else. Like, somebody's coming in to try and sell your house. Well, how good are they at selling houses? So one I would ask is, how many houses have you sold in the last 12 months? Kind of give you a little bit of insight. Not that a new agent or an agent that only sells 12 a year or 6 a year or whatever it is a year can't do a good job for you. That's not the case. Like, take all this with a grain of salt to kind of build that sandcastle of decision making. What's your list to sell percentage? Meaning, on average, the houses that you list and how much do you sell them for? What's that percentage? We're here about 2.25 of what we list it for to what we actually sell it for. So you can infer from that we don't do a lot of price reductions, that we usually price it pretty accurately the first time. So you got to kind of dig into that as well. And what's your average days on market? Because that helps a lot too. That lets them know how aggressive they are, or that lets you know how proactive they are. Some agents believe that it's just timing and you got to sit back and watch the market and the right buyer will come. And some believe that you got to get out there and knock on doors and get the deal done. And so that all goes into average days on market. And the last one I would ask about this one is, what's your average selling price? If you're interviewing somebody to sell your $600,000 house or your $100,000 house and they sell the opposite, are they really the best candidate for you? I don't know, maybe, but I think that would go a long way, because you got to know the target demographics that you're trying to sell to and how to be in front of them. Because in this day and age with marketing, certain ways of getting in front of certain buyers works. So they got to be real well versed in that. Moving on to more marketing now, one question I think you should ask, because everybody thinks they're their own photographer, is, who does your photography? Is it you with your iPhone? Do you hire a professional? Do you have somebody professional on staff? And then I would maybe even ask for some examples. Or if you don't feel comfortable asking for examples, you can always go look them up on Zillow or Facebook or whatever and look at their listings and really see how their listings are portrayed. And with that, I would ask if they do virtual tours and what type of virtual tours. There's several different kinds. There's the pictures that just kind of slide like a picture slideshow. There are 360 virtual tours, and then there's even Matterports, which are like dollhouse views, really interactive, like a Google Street View for a house. All of those options are in your market, so it's a matter of what they do and how much they're willing to invest in your property to get it done. With the marketing as well, do they pay for any enhanced listing portals? And so to break that down, every listing goes from their computer to their local multiple listing service, which then has agreements with Zillow and Realtor.com and Homes.com and 300, 400, a million different websites. Well, that automatically happens. So nobody that lists your house is doing you a favor by getting on Zillow, because it's going. Unless you say don't send it, but that's a whole other topic of discussion. But once Zillow gets it, you can pay more money to have full remarks that your agent wrote, more than 25 photos, virtual tours up there. They would actually show up next to the listing. So those are enhanced. They're upsells, if you will. Do they do it? Because, well, I believe they actually work. So that's a good question: is do they actually do it? A lot of agents, I feel like, just list a house, put a sign and a lockbox out, and they pray it sells. They're not really into investing money. So are they going to be investing money to get that return? And how and would you use social media to sell my house? This is one of the new frontiers in real estate. Everybody's on social media, whether Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Insta Story, Instagram TV, whatever it is, somebody's on something. And if they're not, that's fine. That's a very small minority now. But I think you need to know that, because I think there's a lot of buyers, depending on what size and price your house is, they're looking on one of these platforms because that's where they're spending 4 hours a day sometimes on social media. So you need to know if they're going to be doing it and how they're going to be doing it. I think that's a really good question. As always, all this stuff's going to be housed on our blog and on our website. We'd love to answer these questions to you in person, but we won't go through that today. But make sure you follow us on social media, because we're going to try and put out these tidbits to maybe help you. Because if you don't hire us, we do want you to get the best person out there. So follow us on social media, especially Insta Story, because we have a fun time. We do more than just sell houses. We have a blast while doing it. So